The world is divided into four spheres, each sphere divided among continents and nations. Nations are divided by borders and interests. These interests divide the news. We examine the impact of these divisions on people and power. This is Imaginary Minds. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Chris Spanos. Coming up on the show, first, NBC's Brian Williams. Now, Fox News' Bill O'Reilly. O'Reilly is the second recent news anchor to have allegedly embellished his war reporting. Latin America expert Greg Grandin will give us his scoop on O'Reilly. But first, a look at how media reports on Latin America. Rafael Correa was elected as president of Ecuador in 2006. A wave of popular opposition to neoliberal governments that previously ruled Ecuador swept Correa to power. Dubbed the Citizens' Revolution, Correa's government has massively invested in public services and infrastructure and has lifted over 1 million people out of poverty, all while providing the most economic and political stability Ecuador has seen in decades. Yet Correa's government is routinely attacked by the international corporate media and even the left for being part of Latin America's pink tide of governments. For example, the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, or CONAI, was one of the social movements that led the struggle in Ecuador against neoliberalism, even helping oust a president. CONAI initially backed Correa, but broke with him and now finds itself working with right-wing political forces in the country. Leftist intellectuals and writers insist that CONAI is the most important social movement in the country. The corporate media has jumped on this bandwagon, routinely bringing up opposition to oil exploration in the country in an attempt to show that Correa is both opposed from the right and the left. It is a blatant attempt to undermine support for a government that actually enjoys immense support at home, receiving 79% approval in a recent poll by the Association of Political Communication. A wave of media criticisms has turned from NBC's Brian Williams to Fox News' Bill O'Reilly. Both are accused of embellishing their war reporting, but Bill O'Reilly may have helped cover up U.S. war crimes in Latin America. Greg Grandin is teacher at New York University and author, most recently, of The Empire of Necessity. He was the first to break the story about O'Reilly's exaggerations for the Nation website. He joins me now. Hi, Greg. Welcome to Imaginary Lines.
Thanks for having me.
While Bill O'Reilly worked as a foreign correspondent for CBS Nightly News, in 1982 he went to El Salvador to cover an alleged leftist massacre near the village of El Mozote, where another massacre took place. To help provide context, what was the El Mozote massacre?
Well, the El Mozote massacre occurred in December 1981, and it was reported on the New York Times by Ray Bana and in the Washington Post by Guillermo Prieto, and they actually came in through Honduras. It took them days walking overland to get there, and what they found was just a horror story. I mean, you can go look at the photos, Susan Marcellus, and there were over 100 people killed, and it became clear to both Bana and Guillermo Prieto that it was the Atlacat battalion. It was a U.S. not just trained, but U.S. created battalion, which carried out the massacre. And the reason why it's important is because the Reagan administration immediately mobilized to deny it. They, or at least cast plausible deniability.
So how did Bill O'Reilly cover what was going on then in El Salvador?
Well, it's funny because O'Reilly in two of his memoirs mentions this story of going to El Salvador. And it's not just because he's trying to brag about his courage as a war correspondent, because it actually plays a role in his trajectory where he takes on the liberal establishment. I mean, it's all very complicated, but he basically confronts CBS News and the liberal establishment, in this case being CBS News. And within a year, he's left on bad terms with CBS News, and he goes on to become who he becomes, right? So it plays a role. So he can't not talk about his time in El Salvador. but he fudges it. It's very interesting. He doesn't actually use the term El Mozote, but he does say that he was sent, he was assigned by the, I think he says his bureau chief or bureau editor, to cover an alleged massacre. And in the book, he doesn't, right when he, in that part of the sentence, he doesn't say by leftists or by rightists. He just says an alleged massacre in El Salvador. And he says, I willingly went. Now, there's no way this can't be the El Mozote massacre. And the time is exactly around the time that Bana and Guillermo Prieto's stories come out. There's no other massacre going on. I mean, they were killing people in El Salvador, but there's no other massacre that had come to the attention of the U.S. press that they would have sent a field correspondent down to El Salvador. O'Reilly doesn't go to El Mozote. I mean, it would be, this is what I say in the piece that I wrote in The Nation, it would be as if Cy Hirsch learned about My Lai and went to the next town over. And that's exactly what that Bill O'Reilly did. He didn't go to El Mozote. He went to the next town over, Mienguera, which was kind of the county seat of the municipality in which El Mozote is a small aldea, a small village that's hard to get to. It's about 18 kilometers from the county seat, Mienguera, and that's where Riley reported from. He fudges. He in this book he says the town was leveled, there was nobody to talk to. It's clear. I tracked down the clip from Vanderbilt Broadcasting Archives, and it's clear that it's a 90-second piece, and there's people walking around, there's maybe one or two buildings knocked down. So even with that, he's exaggerating, but the exaggerations aren't the point. The point is he didn't cover El Mozote, and that would have been probably a big deal if CBS confirmed Bana and Guillermo Prieto's reporting in May 1982. That's the height of the Reagan administration's mobilization to discredit Bana and discredit the New York Times. And it would have had a difference. It would have made a difference. Bana gets pulled out of El Salvador. The New York Times sides with the Reagan administration. This is all documented in the Mark Dana book. It's really shameful what A.M. Rosenthal, the executive editor of the New York Times, did to Bana. First assigned him to the Metro desk. And then eventually within a year or within 2 years, Bana left the New York Times altogether. But the important thing is they pulled him out of El Salvador. And he was somebody who he wasn't just like Bill O'Reilly flying in from Miami to El Salvador. He knew El Salvador. He was reporting on the war. So you could imagine it would have contributed that much more depth to the ongoing debate. I mean, obviously, it probably wouldn't have changed anything because the Reagan administration was pretty ruthless in its funding for the death squads. But it would have added that much more depth to what was going on, to our knowledge of what was going on in El Salvador.
You broke the story about O'Reilly's reporting in El Salvador, but media are talking about O'Reilly's reporting in the Malvinas. What happened in the Malvinas, and why is media focusing on this story rather than the story you broke about O'Reilly in El Salvador?
Well, they're focusing on Malvinas, the Falklands, because O'Reilly goes there right after. It happens almost immediately after the El Mozote massacre. The El Mozote massacre is December 81. The Malvinas War breaks out in spring 82. I mean, it deflects from the larger question of U.S. implications and war crimes and the role of the media and the role of the New York Times in covering up those war crimes. I don't know if Bill O'Reilly intentionally did. I don't know what his politics were in 1981, 1982. He looked like a bit of a fool in those videos. I don't think he probably had any politics. It seems to me that his conservative politics is a bit of a shtick. But in 81, I don't know what he was thinking. He probably was just too lazy to go to El Mozote. But the point is, that report, that 90-second report from Mienguera rather than El Mozote, does capture a degeneration of war reporting that allows U.S. atrocities to take place. And that's too complicated a question.
Thank you, Greg, for joining me on Imaginary Lines.
Thanks so much for having me.
And now a look at media news. Online rumors may create a viral tide which turns false fact into presumed reality. A new investigation released by the Columbia University Tow Center for Digital Journalism shows that many news sites are failing to fact-check information. The study, titled Lies, Damn Lies, and Viral Content, written by Craig Silverman, documents the way in which stories go viral online and the bad practices in newsrooms that lead to the publication of false information. The author analyzed over 1,500 news articles. based on over 100 online rumors, and contrasted his analysis with interviews. The conclusion of the study suggests that the current trends in social media and online news sites reinforce the dynamic that originally provoked unverified information to go viral. Silverman explained in his investigation that many news sites apply little or no basic verification to the claims they pass on. Instead, he wrote, they rely on linking out to other media reports, which themselves often only cite other media reports as well. That's it for today's Imaginary Lines. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Chris Spanos. Please join me next week.